Hello students, I am Arundhati Rai Chaudhary, Science teacher of Longmang High School. Chapter 9 of class 10, that is Heredity and Evolution. So first of all, let us try to understand the term heredity. Heredity in common terms, we can say that it is the process of transfer of characters from one generation to the other. If you look at your parents, if you look at yourself and your parents, you will find something or the other in common. For example, your eyes may be similar to your mother, your hair may be similar to your father. So this is heredity. The way the characters are transferred from one generation to the other, they are transferred from your parents to you, that is heredity. So if we go to the definition of heredity, then we can say that the transmission of characters or traits from parents to their offsprings, offsprings means children, is called heredity. And in most simple terms, heredity means continuity of features from one generation to the next. And that is the reason why when we go and see a newborn child, we always say that he or she looks like his mother or his father, and that is heredity. And when we talk about heredity, first of all, you have to think about your previous chapter, that is reproduction. So in that chapter, you have surely studied about the types of reproduction. So there were two types of reproduction, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. And the term heredity is mostly applicable to sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction also, there are some kind of similarities, but when we talk about heredity, we have to talk about sexual reproduction in details. So in sexual reproduction, what happens? All of you know that there is always a male parent and a female parent. Both are involved in the process of sexual reproduction, and the sexually reproducing organisms, they produce sex cells or gametes, and these gametes, they actually contain the characteristics which are transferred from one generation to the other. Actually, the hereditary information is present in the sex cells or gametes of the parents, and they pass the characters or traits to their offsprings or children. This relation that continues to exist between successive generations, not only our parents and us, even before that also our ancestors, we may have many characters in common with our ancestors. Many a times people say that you look like your grandmother or your grandfather or your great grandfather or great grandmother. So that is actually heredity. So here I have shown you a flow chart showing the process of heredity. So in sexual reproduction, what happens? You see here male parent, that is the father. Female parent, the mother. The male parent contains the male gamete, which is also known as sperm, and the female parent, it has the female gamete or the ovum, or it is also sometimes called egg cell or ovum. So when these sperm and ovum or egg cell, they unite in the process of sexual reproduction, they together form the zygote, and this zygote again, it develops into the young one or the offspring of that particular individual. So next we will come to the topic variation. Variation means differences. So as we have talked just now, that heredity, it actually deals with the characteristics which comes in common in the offsprings from their parents. But along with the commonness or the similarities, many differences also come. Although the offsprings inherit the characters of their parents and resemble them very closely, but they are never a true copy of their parents. In fact, no two individuals are exactly alike. When you look at your parents, we say that you are similar, but we cannot say that you are exactly same. So that is actually variation. That is the differences which comes along with heredity are known as variation. So these differences are known as variation. So these differences may include differences in height, complexion, types of hair, color of eyes, etc. Many other differences are there. I may look very much similar to my mother, but there may be many differences. I may have straight hair, my mother may have curly hair. So these are variation. So now when we are talking about variations, next we will come to accumulation of variations. Variations just don't come and go away. When variations come, they are accumulated in the different generations. From generation to generation, along with the similarities which come, the variations also come and they get accumulated in different generations. So the reproduction of organisms produces variations. We know that, we have discussed just now. The variations produced in organisms during successive generations get accumulated in the organisms. They get accumulated in the organism, that is, it keeps on going on along with the organism. It doesn't go away. The significance of a variation shows up only if it continues to be inherited by the offspring for several generations. So if I get a variation from when I am inherited from my parents, the variations which come to me, if they stay in me, only then its significance is there. Otherwise it has no significance, because if it goes away, then variation has no significance. Only if the variations stay, then the particular species or the particular individual, it acquires some or the other characteristic which helps it in the survival on this earth. So as an example of accumulation of variation, we can take the example of a bacteria. A bacterium, suppose a bacterium, it produces, we know that when a bacteria divides, you have learnt in the previous chapter in asexual reproduction, that when a bacteria divides, it divides into two parts. The nucleus also divides and the cytoplasm also divides, and it divides into two parts and gives rise to two more individuals. So in that process, suppose that one of the offspring bacterium, it has a variation due to which it can tolerate little higher temperature than the other one. The other one cannot tolerate higher temperature, but the one of the offspring, it can tolerate very high temperature. Now this variation of little more heat resistance will go on accumulating in the offsprings of successive generations of this bacterium, and this will give rise to a variant of bacteria which can tolerate higher temperature. And as a result of which, this particular bacteria will have a great advantage over the other one. The other one will not have that advantage because it will not be able to survive in higher temperature. But the one which is a heat resistant bacteria, it will get that advantage that it will be able to survive even when the temperature is very high, and due to which the chances of its survival in the changing environment will increase very much. So this is how accumulation of variation can help an individual in surviving on this earth. It will become more stronger to survive in the different changing environments. So now, before we go in details about how characters or traits are inherited, how heredity occurs, we have to learn or understand some important terms. So let us discuss about those first. So the first important one is chromosome. Chromosome, it is the genetic material which contains the main factors of heredity. So chromosome, it is actually a thread-like structure. It is present in the nucleus of a cell formed of DNA. Now what is DNA? DNA is the full form of DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. So it is the nucleic acid, and this DNA, it is the main carrier of heredity. So this DNA is present in the chromosome, and DNA carries the genes, and genes are the place where the characters are situated or the traits are situated which help in heredity. So different organisms have different number of chromosomes in their nuclei. As for human, we know that human beings have 46 number of chromosomes, 46 or 23 pairs. So similarly, other organisms have different other number of chromosomes. So next, our important term is gene. Just now here we have discussed about genes. So what is gene? So a gene is a unit of DNA on a chromosome which governs the synthesis of one protein that controls a specific characteristic or trait of an organism. So genes are actually units of heredity which transfer characteristics from parents to their offsprings. Genes are the main reason for which the characters are transferred from one generation to the other. And these genes, they work in pairs. They are never single. They will always work in pairs. So they are represented by letters. Genes control the genes control different characteristics, and these are given by letters. For example, capital T for tallness and its opposite characteristic, which is dwarfness, is given by small t. So our next important term is genotype. So as we go further with our chapter, we will find all these terms, and that is why I am explaining it to you earlier so that you understand it better. So now we come to the term genotype. Genotype shows the genetic constitution of an organism. What is the genetic constitution? What kind of genes is present in that particular organism? So that is known as genotype. So it is the description of genes present in an organism. So if we take an example, so genotype of tall plant. So genotype of tall plant is capital T or capital T small t. Whereas that of a dwarf plant is small t. So when you see this, you have to understand that yes, the plant is tall. Capital T means tall. Again, if a small t is there with a capital T, that is also tall plant. But when two small t's are there, then we have to understand that it is a dwarf plant. So that is how we describe the genotype of a particular organism. Again, now we come to the term phenotype. What is phenotype? The characteristic which is visible in an organism is called its phenotype. Example, being tall or dwarf are phenotypes of a plant. That is, we are not going within the genes. What kind of genes are present, that is not a matter here. Here the matter is what is the overall characteristic. So if it is tall, we know that yes, it is tall, so that is the phenotype of that particular plant. If it is dwarf, we know that yes, the phenotype of the plant is that it is dwarf. Only the overall character which is visible to us, which we can see with our eyes, that is the phenotype. That is the physical appearance. So our next important term is F1 generation. So when two parents, they cross or breed, after the breeding, the first generation of offsprings, that is the children, suppose when sexual reproduction is occurring between father and mother, so their children, the first generation, that is known as the F1 generation or first filial generation. So next is F2 generation. So F2 generation is the next step of F1 generation, that is the second filial generation of or F2 generation. So when the first generation progeny, that is the children of the first generation, when they cross amongst themselves, then the second generation of offsprings is produced. So that second generation of offsprings is known as the second filial generation or the F2 generation. So as we have already discussed the important terms, so now we will come to learn in details about heredity and the various laws associated with heredity. So first we will come to Mendel's laws of inheritance. So Gregor Johann Mendel, he was a scientist. So he was the first scientist to make a systematic study of the patterns of inheritance which involved the transfer of characteristics from one generation to the other, that is from parents to their offsprings or progeny. So he did this by using different varieties of pea plants which he grew in his garden. So now why did he choose pea plants? That is the question. So pea plants, they are actually they have many characteristics which could be taken into account, and that is why Mendel chose pea plants for studying the inheritance, because pea plants had a number of clear-cut differences which were easy to tell apart. They were very easy to handle. Example, some pea plants, they were tall, some were dwarf, so that was a difference in characteristic which could be taken into account. Again, when the seeds of pea plants were seen, then he saw that the seeds were round yellow seeds, and again the contrasting character, that is wrinkled green seeds, so etc. So these kind of many characteristics were there which helped Mendel in choosing that particular plant for his experiments. Also, pea plants were self-pollinating, so they didn't need any other factor for pollinations. They were self-pollinating, and many generations of pea plants could be produced within a short span. So time is always a factor. So because within a short span many generations could be produced of pea plants, that is why that was a major reason for which Mendel chose pea plants for learning about the different laws of inheritance. And also the study became simpler because within a short span so many things could be done with the pea plants, and that is why the studying the different characteristics was very much easier. So now first we come to the first experiment of Mendel, that is also known as the monohybrid cross. So the meaning of monohybrid cross you will come to understand as we move on with the topic. So Mendel, he first crossed purebred tall pea plants, purebred, that is purely tall or purely dwarf. So these were bred together, breeding was done between them, they were crossed, and he found that only tall plants were produced in the first or F1 generation, the first generation, that is what we discussed just now, first filial generation or F1 generation. So in this first generation, he found that only tall plants were produced, dwarf plants were not produced. Thus, Mendel concluded that F1 generation showed the traits of only one of the parent plant, that is tallness. Although the cross was between a tall and a dwarf plant, but dwarfness was not shown in the first generation. The trait of the other parent plant, that is dwarfness, did not show up in the progeny of the first generation. So here you can see this is a pure tall plant and this is a pure dwarf plant. So when a pure tall plant and a pure dwarf plant are crossed together, what happens? So this character, one of the tall character, it mixes with a dwarf character, but the character which is produced is again a tall one. So this small t, although it is present, it is recessive. So this is why small t, it is also known as a recessive gene. Although it is present, it cannot suppress the tall characteristic to be expressed. The tall characteristic is always expressed, and that is why it is also known as a dominant gene or dominant characteristic. Similarly, here again this T, it is mixing with this. Again a tall characteristic is formed. Here again tall. Again the last one also tall. So thus all the four offsprings which are produced are tall and none is dwarf. So continuing with our monohybrid cross. So Mendel, in the next step, he crossed the tall pea plants of the first generation and found that tall plants and dwarf plants were obtained in the second generation or the F2 generation. That is, in the previous experiment, he crossed the purely tall and purely dwarf plants. But here what he did was the plants which were the offsprings which were produced in that experiment. So those offsprings were self-crossed. That is, the tall plants which were produced after the breeding, they were crossed amongst themselves. So here you see tall, tall. So these two plants were crossed, and after this what was seen, that in the second generation, this is the second generation. Why? Because these were produced in the first generation. So these were crossed and we got a second generation, that is the F2 generation. What we got, that Here 3 plants, here also we got one, we got purely tall. These are not purely tall, but they are tall. And one we got with the dwarf characteristic, and this proves that even if a particular characteristic, it may not be expressed in the first generation, but it may be expressed in the next generations to come. And that is why sometimes we find that a particular person, he has got some characteristic which is not similar with his parents, but it may be similar to any of his grandparents or ancestors. They may be expressed, they were recessive in the previous generations, but in the next generations it became dominant and it was expressed. So now we will come to the results of the monohybrid cross. Why it is known as monohybrid cross? Because the similar types of hybrids, that is in the first generation tall plants, in the first generation purely tall and purely dwarf plants were crossed together. Again in the next step, the tall plants of the first generation were crossed together. So only they contained only one particular characteristic which were crossed together or bred together, and that is why it is known as monohybrid cross. So what we got in the results of monohybrid cross is the ratio 3:1. Why it is said at 3:1? Because we saw that in the second generation, that is in the F2 generation, what was produced, out of the 4 offsprings which were produced, 3 were tall and 1 was dwarf. So that is the ratio of monohybrid cross. In all kinds of monohybrid cross, this ratio is always obtained, and that is why this ratio is also known as the monohybrid ratio. And the progeny thus occurs in the ratio of 3 dominant to 1 recessive trait. So 3 dominant, that is the tall characteristic is the dominant characteristic here. So 3 tall plants were produced and 1 dwarf plant was produced, and that is why it is said that 3 dominant and 1 recessive trait will always be produced in a monohybrid cross. So next, the results of monohybrid cross, it enabled Mendel to formulate his first law of inheritance. We didn't talk about law of inheritance till now, isn't it? So the first law of inheritance, it came from this monohybrid cross, and this states that the characteristics of traits of an organism are determined by internal factors or characteristics which occur in pairs. Only one of a factor of such pairs can be present in a single gamete. This law is therefore also known as the law of segregation. So next we will come to dihybrid cross. We have discussed about monohybrid cross. So next is our dihybrid cross or dihybrid inheritance. So dihybrid cross, why it is known as dihybrid? Previous one was monohybrid because they considered only one particular characteristic or trait. But in dihybrid cross, here 2 characteristics or 2 traits will be crossed together, and that is why it is also known as dihybrid cross. So dihybrid cross involves the inheritance of 2 pairs of contrasting characteristics at the same time. The 2 pairs of contrasting characteristics chosen by Mendel were shape and color of seeds, because he took pea plant. So in pea plant he found these very easier for the dihybrid cross. So he took round yellow seeds in one side and wrinkled green seeds on the other side, and the results of the cross were: Mendel first crossed purebred pea plants. Again here he took purebred. So purebred pea plants having round yellow seeds with purebred wrinkled seeds, and found that only round yellow seeds were produced in the F1 generation. Wrinkled green seeds were not produced. So from this it was concluded that round shape and yellow color of seeds were dominant traits. As we know, in a monohybrid cross, only the dominant traits are expressed in the first generation. So he took he did that for finding out which is the dominant trait, round yellow or wrinkled green. So finally he found that round shape and the yellow color both were dominant characteristics in the pea seeds. So continuing with our dihybrid cross or inheritance, in the second step what Mendel did was, when the F1 generation pea plants having round yellow seeds were crossbred by self-pollination, and then 4 types of seeds having different combinations of shape and color were obtained in F2 generation or the second generation. So these were round yellow, round green, wrinkled yellow and wrinkled green seeds. The phenotypic ratio, phenotype before I told you, phenotype means the physical appearance. So the phenotypic ratio of different type of seeds can be written as round yellow is to round green is to wrinkled yellow is to wrinkled green equals to 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. So for your proper understanding about what is happening here, if you see a chart which I am going to show you now, so you will have a clear understanding about what is happening in this dihybrid cross or inheritance and how this ratio has come up. So firstly, let us try to know that how we will write the characteristics which are bred or crossed in the dihybrid cross. So in the dihybrid cross, the parent plants having the phenotype round yellow seeds, they have the factors of inheritance or gene combination. The gene combination we write it as, just like for tall and dwarf plants what we wrote, capital T small t. So here for round and yellow seeds, which is the dominant characteristic, we write capital R, capital R, capital Y, and that also here you see why it is a dihybrid. Capital R, this is for the round, and capital Y, it is for the yellow. So two characteristics are taken together, and that is why this cross is known as a dihybrid cross. So and here the wrinkled green seeds, their gene combination, it is written as small r and small y. When all these characteristics are, whenever they are written in small letters, you should understand that it means a recessive characteristic, that is which doesn't get expressed if a dominant character is there with them. They get expressed only when they are purely recessive. They get expressed in the particular organism. So for your proper understanding, I have shown you a chart here. Here you see the parental cross. The round yellow seeds are crossed with the wrinkled green seeds. So after the cross, you can see here only round yellow seeds are produced. No wrinkled green seeds are produced. That is, the recessive character is not seen to be expressed in any of the offsprings. But when we go to the second cross, that is the cross amongst the offsprings of the first generation of the F1 generation, then we can see here that after the cross appears, that is round yellow seeds are crossed with round yellow seeds. So what happens after the cross? You can see here all the hybrids. Here all the recessive characters are also expressed. So this is round yellow seed. Here it is a round but green seed. Here it is not round, it is wrinkled yellow seed. And here you are looking the totally recessive character, that is wrinkled green seed. Again here you can see round yellow, this is round green, this is wrinkled yellow, and this is again wrinkled green. So here is a table which shows the different offsprings, how the cross appears. See here in this table, if you cross them, this round yellow, it comes this way, this RY, it should cross with this one. So finally what we are getting, round yellow, you see how many, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So round yellow, they are found 9 offsprings are round yellow. That is with the dominant characteristic. Then we are finding the other characteristics or traits also here. Round green we are getting wrinkled yellow, we are getting wrinkled green also, and finally we can see that the characteristics they are found in the ratio 9:3:3:1, and this ratio is known as the dihybrid ratio. In the monohybrid cross we got previously that monohybrid ratio is 3:1, and now here in dihybrid cross you have to remember that the ratio of dihybrid cross or the dihybrid ratio is 9:3:3:1. So students, I will end up this part of the chapter here, and I will be continuing with the other parts in my next video.